All right, thank you for staying with us. The conversation, as I said earlier, is about human rights. A few days ago, the world celebrated Human Rights Day, and the conversation has been holding globally, nationally, even at the subnational level. And our future, our rights, starting now, the United Nations had their message on the 10th of every December is a celebration, but we are having that conversation on a day like this. 2024 theme says our right, our future, right now. So, checking through what the United Nations Secretary General said, that's Antonio Guterres. Human rights are under assault. This year's theme reminds us that human rights are about building the future right now. Right now. We must stand up for all rights, absolute right. And of course, when you talk about right, you talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, all of it. Article 1, 2, 3, and all of those. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and right. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Everyone has the right to life. That is very important. Liberty and security of person. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedom set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. We have many of them in our charter. Everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law, and no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Everyone has the right to effective remedy by competent national tribunals for act violating the fundamental right granted him by the Constitution or by law. We have many of those articles there, but for the sake of time, we have a gentleman and a lady with us, both physical and virtual. Comrade Emmanuel Olowu is here as the coordinator for the CDHR, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, here in Ocean State. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. I'm happy to be here once again.
All right. And of course, virtually, we have with us Barrister Rita Odafe, Ofarn. She is a legal associate with Citizens Gavel. She joins us virtually. Good morning, Barrister.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you for being with us. As they say, let me take the ladies first.
Okay.
The lady. All right, Barrister, if you can hear me, the theme for this year is talking about our rights, our future right now. But how important, let me ask you, is it for us to be having conversations about human rights? Yes, 10th of every December has been earmarked for this day, this advocacy, these conversations every year. But this year, how instructive is it for us to have this topic, our right, our future right now, and of course, in a place like Nigeria, how important is it for us to be talking about this today?
All right. Thank you very much, sir. So indeed, the 10th of December 2024 marked the celebration of Human Rights Day. But sir, you would agree with me that many Nigerians do not know about this sacred day because of the glaring reality that we experience. It was very ironic that during that 10th of December, there was a sensational news on social media, all around the news airwaves, about how human rights activities, rights were ironically blatantly violated. And because we have been having back-to-back issues of a glaring of people's fundamental human rights. So yes, in as much as this is instructive for we Nigerians to spread this day apart, more awareness needs to move from just the talk to actually protecting the rights of human beings, of citizens of Nigeria. Anybody and everyone to be affected by this. As each day passes, Nigeria seems to lose democratic element. Nigeria seems to be having a fight mix between a military regime, an oligarchy, or a autocracy, that's where the rights of individuals are suspended, the constitution is suspended, nobody is making reference to, oh, what does the law say about this situation? So please, it behoves on everybody and the institutions at large to begin to do what they're supposed to do.
Thank you very much. Please hang in there. I'll come back to you. Comrade, same question. How important is it for you as a human rights activist, you head a committee for the defense of human rights, for us to be having conversation about human rights, especially in Nigeria of today? Many persons will say we are a free nation. Why are we talking about this?
Even in some other claims of the world, the advanced nation of the world, they still talk about the animal rights. So if in some part of the world we talk about the animal rights, and even in Nigeria we have acts that is protecting the rights of animals, then it is important for us to also look at it that it is very, very, very important that we continue to discuss fundamental human rights and even celebrate the World Human Rights Day. Why is this so important? We are in a society whereby the Nigerian people themselves are not well acquainted with these documents. The Nigerian people themselves does not really understand that they have a right, as stated in the Chapter 4 of the Nigerian Constitution, which is protecting them. We have 12 of those fundamental rights as stated in the Constitution. And a lot of Nigerians do not even know that they have such rights, and they don't even know how to protect it. So it is important that in this critical time that we are in Nigeria, we have to continue to discuss it. We have to continue to advocate it. We have to continue to take it to schools. From primary schools, we have to make our children know that they have the right and they have all what it takes to stand up and demand for their fundamental rights. Though we have a lot of challenges in the system, Nigeria is backward. We wholly say we are a sovereign nation, we are a free nation.
Are we not?
We had our independence. Yes,
are we not? We have.
But part of the problem that we have is that those who are leading us are not even aware or conversant that there are documents like this. Most of them.
Are you sure? No. Everybody should.
No. You see, when you look at from 1999 till date, those who are take over leadership in this country, you are going to discover that most of them are people who does not have a background in governance. These are people who, out of the fact maybe they had a little amount of money and they have understand the Nigerian political system that if I want to go contest an election, all what I need is just for me to gather some amount of money and share on election day and for me to just find my way through. Had it been we have people who are groomed towards leadership for years, for like 10, 15 years before attaining that leadership, they would have been conversant with every of these documents that we talk about. And when we talk about the United Nations Declaration that we are discussing today, we are going to discover that it has a timeline of between a timeline that it has a time space of that the policy will have been well established between sometime to 2030, and we are now in 2024. We have those 6 years. For just 6 years to that. And the question is that within a space of still 6 years, we will still be able to meet the standard of the 30 articles that forms this document.
All right.
Now, what I'm trying to say in essence is that we have institutional problem. Our leaders are not conversant with every of these documents. Even the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Chapter 4, most of them are not, I can say they are
Comrade, I can beg to differ to say, I'm not sure it's because they are not conversant. How about the will to do? Because you're talking about some persons, possibly they were not groomed into governance. But then you can take examples of persons given, assuming without conceding now, to say they were not groomed into governance, but they have been in governance now. 4 years as a governor, 8 years as a governor, he goes to the Senate, he becomes a minister, he's now a senator, and he has been such a person. We have many of them like that, has been at the corridor of power for almost 24 years. And what kind of grooming do you think that person needs again? What kind of being conversant with the laws, with charters like this, do you think that person needs? How about the will to do?
Now, the question is that for anybody who has the ability, who has the grace, because let me use the word grace, of attaining a particular office and is there for 2 years, to some extent, they will have understood what we are talking about today. But the fact is that, by all moral standard, what was their attitude, their moral way of life before they attain leadership? If somebody does not have a art of doing good, and eventually he attains leadership, the wickedness and the callousness in him before attaining that leadership will keep manifesting. And that is why I've always been advocating that. You see, leadership is all about us grooming people, making people have that impact. My son will always tell me when we are discussing at home, he tells me I now discover that they are trying to teach them some certain things from the primary school level.
Yeah.
He comes and tells me, Daddy, it is your duty to provide food. It is the duty of mommy to cook it.
You are talking about rights and obligations.
Yes. Now I now discover when they were now him and the younger sister, they were analyzing it. And he was also reading, and he said, we have polygamy, we have monogamy, and he begins to explain, Daddy, where do you belong? I burst into laughter. I said, I belong into all because I'm an African.
All right, we'll get back to that. Before Uzoms comes in, Barrister, are you with me?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you very much. You know, as a lawyer, constitutionally speaking, we're talking about rights here. And I'd like to ask you, according to our, the 30 articles of the United Nations Charter on one side, we have our laws as well as a people, as a sovereign nation. The grand norm is what we use around here. All these rights, as a citizen of the world, as a citizen of Nigeria, the right to life, right to this, right to that, are they absolute?
Absolutely. But there's a clause on paper, they are absolute. But what we have on paper, you would agree with me, is it's a great deviation of what we have in reality. Except even if you are living under a rock, you realize human rights are not being protected. Everybody is, trying to tread carefully. And the few that challenge the status quo, you can be doing something as innocent as, reviewing a product. You can be doing something as innocent as demanding accountability from your political leaders. You can be doing something as innocent as saying, this man, what he did wasn't so good. And then you're found, you're arrested, you're not detained, you're tortured. And at that point, nobody said anything about the human rights. I tried to ignore. And the problem is norm where every other law gets its validity from. So we really have a lot of work to do. It needs to make our institutions work. For instance, I was emphasizing on judicial accountability. If anyone does wrong, and everybody is sure that the courts are going to ensure that I see the full extent of the law, everybody will sit up. But like justice is for a selected few. Justice is for the influential elders in the society. Justice is for the elite. Justice is just for those that have been able to get a particular sphere of influence. So we need to hold the judiciary accountable. So that is when people will be like, if there is a law, then there are punishments, and it's an institution that is actually enforcing those punishments. So beyond the paper, beyond the provisions of the Constitution, we need the practicality of putting into practice everything the law says and ensuring that people are adequately punished. They face the full extent of the law in an instance where there is a violation. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Ma.
Good morning.
Okay, Ma, you said something about holding the judiciary accountable. How can an ordinary citizen of the nation hold the judiciary accountable to violations of our fundamental rights? We have this situation of, you come out to speak up for what you feel is your right. And somehow, because someone is in power and has the authority and has the influence, and the person picks you up and somehow the person disappears. How can we hold the judiciary accountable? How can an average citizen of the country actually hold the judiciary accountable to the violations of fundamental human rights?
Thank you. I was in a discussion a few days ago, and someone made a comment. We talked about moving forward from the writing, the viral and paper way of doing things, the analog way of doing things, to the digital way of doing things. This discussion we're having right now is a way of holding the judiciary accountable. It goes beyond where we are. It's going to be published on social media, and it's going beyond the four walls of Nigeria. So they sit in a place like the United Kingdom, and someone will influence in saying, oh, you mean things like this is happening in 2024? Oh, you mean people were shot at the NSAS protest and people don't know who was responsible? Every single thing we do on social media, no matter how they try to stifle us, using Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act, everything we do is still a way of holding the judiciary accountable. We can advocate, we can review judgments, we can publish it that, okay, this is the judgment given in this matter, this is what the law says. See for yourself, are there contradictions? Is the judgment in line with the law? And publicizing this thing on social media platforms. When people keep on talking, one person talks, another person talks, and it is published throughout the world. Remember, we're not isolated as a nation. We are connected to other nations. And so when we have discussions like this, when people go on social media and talk about injustice and unfair treatment and blatant violations of human rights, that is our own way of holding the judiciary accountable. And they'll know that, oh, people are watching us, people are demanding that their rights are protected. People are gradually losing faith in us, and not just we Nigerians watching, the Committee of Nations are watching. That is how we can hold the judiciary accountable.
Okay, just to come in again, Ma. You made mention of talking and the social media, it goes viral through the social media. And you also made mention of the NSAS protest. Okay, some persons that actually participated in that protest would actually feel like they actually didn't get enough of what they expected. Even though we say, okay, the SARS aspect of it was actually worked on, but all those that were killed, all those that were brutalized, all those that were abused during the protests, they would be like, we are not getting the voice we want, we are not getting it. Even during the protest, it's okay, we should speak up. And people came out to the streets peacefully to speak up, to have a peaceful protest against the SARS and the bad government and everything. And somehow the force came into power to show their power and started abusing people. They started shooting at them, So how exactly are we saying that these things go viral and it helps the people to listen, or helps the government to listen? Where the average citizen will say that even with all that's happening on social media, the government actually is not listening. So how exactly are we going to, how can we do better? How can we strive to make people hear us better and work on these human rights violations?
Very much. I would not water down the harsh effect of the NSAS protest and also recently concluded end bad governance. I beg your pardon. But I would like to also emphasize that this is a consistent, it is both a consistent and continuous process. Let's throw it back a bit to the NSAS protest of 2020. You would agree with me, at the point when it went viral, we had, presidents of first-class nations calling out on presidents who gave the order and things like that. And then after all that was a silence. And fast forward to sometime this year, the ECOWAS court eventually gave compensation and judgment to both the victims of the election massacre as well as giving them 10 million naira compensation. So like I said, it was both a consistent and continuous process. Just after ECOWAS judgment was made, it seems like a silver lining at the end of that cloud. We started the End Bad Governance. Nigerians started the End Bad Governance protest. And if you would agree with me, shortly after that, there was some sort of reshuffling, in the cabinet. So no matter how it feels like nothing is happening, let us also remember that these issues have been there over time, for years, for decades. So it's like to bring down, a rock, a mountain. So it takes steady, continuous hitting. So it is only when we keep hitting, when we keep speaking up, when we keep coming online, when we keep insisting that this is the provision of the law, when we keep insisting that Nigeria is a democratic state, not a military state, where government by the elders, when we keep saying it over and over and over again, eventually all the bad governance, everything will give way. So it is both a consistent and continuous process.
All right. Thank you, Barrister. Please hang in there. Let me come to Comrade here. Let's put this into context. The issues of human rights, talked about, people even have to be aware first that they have rights, actually, before they can even claim any, actually. But today, you are a comrade, you listen, you see, you get complaints, you petition, you are in this movement. What are the issues of human rights that you will say, maybe the first 3 or first 5 issues that we're having as a people in this nation?
1, the issue of domestic violence. It's on the high side in this part of the world. And I think why we're having the issue of domestic violence that is getting on the high side is because of the economic strength of the family most of the time. Because when they come, we had discussions with them, and you ask the both parties what really happened, and you discover that their economic strength, their economic right is being affected, either caused by the bad economic policies of the country, of those in leadership who had meted hardship on them. That's number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, the issue of torture is also there.
By who?
Now, most especially by the police. And when you look at even the National Human Rights Commission makes a report. And in that report, they said the state actors, when you look at the volumes of those who petitions against the police, you are going to discover it is rated 50, the military 13, NSCDC 0, FRSC is 0. What I'm trying to say next, last 2 weeks, somebody called me and said, in the state CID, that we have people who have been there for like 4 months and they are not being taken to court. And when the person told me, I had to immediately ask the person a question. Are you sure? He said, I'm sure. And I said, part of the role of the Ministry of Justice, is to pay visits to every of the cell according to the Administrative of Criminal Justice. That they ought to pay visits to every of the police cell detentions to know the numbers of people that are there, to know who are to be there. But the person said that whenever they are there, you see the police that is leading the representative of the ministry, you see them hiding, taking back and front and saying there's no problem. And every of the inmates in the police cell find it difficult to voice out and say, this is what we are passing through. So when I immediately add that, I had to look at it that we have to firstly investigate. Is this information correct?
Yeah.
So what we intend to do now is for us to meet with the Ministry of Justice, to collaborate with the Ministry of Justice in Osun State, and to make a demand that whenever they are going for such visits, the ministries are not to go alone, that we are to go alongside with the ministry. So that even if the ministry officials are not doing what is expected of them, we are going to charge them up for them to do. So we have the issue of torture. We have the issue of illegal arrest and detention. Like on the 29th specifically, some set of people brought a report that some people dressed in DSS uniform came and make arrest in Modaike axis. And when they said that, we now asked them, are you very, very sure that they are DSS personnel? They said they put on DSS uniform. And I want to tell you that 9 days after the arrest, we wrote a letter to the DSS telling them that some set of people were missing and that they came, we gave a description of the information they told us, but it is unfortunate that till now, the DSS had not replied. And more also, we also sent a letter to the Commissioner of Police that 2 persons were missing and we have not got information about their disappearance. So what I'm trying to say in essence is
all right,
we have challenges in the areas of police brutality. We have challenges in the area of domestic violence that is coming in from family as a result of their economic challenges. And more also, again, we have to point out this. Our institutions are not working fine. So as a result of,
please pardon me. I will come back to you, Comrade, on the matter. But let me go to Barrister, if you can hear me, Barrister Rita.
I can hear you.
All right. Yeah. At Citizens Gavel, you have done a lot of work. You receive complaints. You get to attend to issues at your end, possibly with statistics, with figures. What are the issues bedeviling us as a nation as far as human rights abuses are concerned?
Right, thank you very much. This interview couldn't have been more timely because most of the complaints we receive still boils down to violation of people's fundamental human rights. We work with journalists, as you are well aware. Very recently, two investigative journalists were unlawfully detained, were arrested just because they were trying to bring out some illegal activities that were happening at the helm of affairs of government. And so from the 1st of August to the 2nd of November, about 76 journalists were either harassed, attacked, arrested by state actors in connection with their work. And of course, we have police brutality. Someone, just a policeman halting, you're driving, the policeman is halting you, asking to check your phone. We get that a lot. We also have a lot of, cyber crimes, people invading people's privacies, hacking phones, divulging information that should ordinarily be private.
All right. And, recently, a couple was manhandled in Abuja, talking about, illegal arrest or people trying to show, this, I will show you. Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
That syndrome in Nigeria. Do you know who I am? You think that person is suffering memory loss, but somebody will just come. Do you know who I am? Because he feels he or she is big and is going to show you who he is. And most of the time, they get away with it. Now, recently, a couple was manhandled in Abuja in November for an alleged traffic offense by a military team while a House or representative member allegedly assaulted an Uber driver, even threatening to make him disappear. Those cases went viral. He said, do you know who I am? I will make you disappear. Nothing will happen. The guy was arraigned at the court, and all of a sudden, we are not hearing anything again. The issue of the military guys who, because of traffic issues or something, the guy was hit severally, the phone of the woman was snatched, among many other things. My comrade here talked about torture, illegal arrest, and some of these things. Is it a complex? Now, let me ask you that. Is it a complex for us as a people? Like, irrespective of either you're in government or you are not in government, you're in power or you're not in power, the moment you feel you are bigger than somebody, I'm asking that very carefully, like there is that complex for you to want to trample down on somebody that is beneath you. Is it because of lack of laws, or there is no willpower for justice to be seen, to be maintained in that kind of a situation, or what do you think is wrong?
Yes, we have the liberty to think we're whoever we are. I mean, I think I'm the richest and the most influential person, but there should be an institution that should call me to order, like, young lady, you are not all that. There is a law and you are subjected to the law. So anybody can say, do you know who I am? But there should also be a brick wall, which is the judiciary, to say, no, there is a law, and that law is here to maintain law and order. So, but because there is really no judicial accountability, people feel, a particular set of people that they know so well, they feel, oh, I can do and undo, and I'll get away with it. There are no institutions that are holding me accountable. So that is why those kind of phrases are the order of the day. Do you know who I am? You rat. I can make you disappear and nothing will happen. That is why we hear things like that, because the institutions that are supposed to hold people accountable, that are supposed to protect the rights of citizens, are not working. That is why we hear things like that. So we should keep having discussions like this.
All right. And
as our own contribution.
Yes. Comrade, I ask you the same question before Uzoms will come. There is that complex with us. Like the moment you feel you are a bit, above somebody, either in your head or indeed, you feel I can do something to you and nothing will happen. Is it a Nigerian problem, or is it a people problem?
Now, it is the problem of the black race. We feel too important and we feel too big. It is part of who we are. But what can now distinct us is our level of education and civilization. Is what is going to mend us and make us be who we are expected to be. Olowu said education is a light. So part of the problem we have is because we are not well educated. A larger percentage of the African people, a larger percentage of the Nigerian people are not well educated. So as a result of the fact that they are not well educated, they have not formed into the light that we are talking about.
Comrade, you know, I'm a beg to disagree because
now,
even the most educated ones are doing it.
I'm coming. As a result of the fact that their fathers were not well educated, let me start from there, were not well educated. A lot of us in my own category, in my own age bracket, grew up to feel that they can live the life like the way their father lived it. That is why you are going to see an influential person, a political office holder, who come out and say, I will make you disappear. It tells you the person he is, that he is still himself. He is not the people's person. That is why how would I say?
But he's representing the people.
No, because the process that brought them to leadership. And that is why I'm keen into what the barrister is saying, which is about institutions. People must not be left alone to go away with rubbish. If I should do something I have always been telling people, if we want a new Nigeria, people we are the one that the government are going to use. People at our generation are those the government is going to use to strengthen the Nigerians that are going to come in the next generation coming behind. How would that be done? If I should drive against the traffic and I am being caught by the road safety or the police, I should be made to face the result of what I have done.
But Comrade Olowu, please hold on. Hold on.
Okay.
You know, we are talking about institutions, but you, and when I mean you, I don't mean you personally, somebody like that will pick up a phone and call somebody and say, Oga, where are you now, Matogoluwa? Somebody, your boys have arrested me. And that the Oga will say, oh, where are they? Can you identify them? We'll call that one and say, oh, now my boy, allow and go. That's what happened.
Can I quickly come in here, sir?
And that is because...
Please hold on, Barrister, are you coming?
And that is because we are not having institutions that are working. There are some things that a sitting governor...
But institutions don't make themselves.
I'm coming.
People make institutions.
It is, you see, I was discussing with a lawyer.
Yeah.
He now told me that Olowu, the only institution that is working in Nigeria is the law school. I now asked him, why is it that it is the law school that is the only institution working? He said, see, when you sit for exams in the law school, a lecturer is going to mark number 1, another lecturer marks number 2. So you don't even really know the lecturer that is marking. And the program and the program outline of the law school is what you are going to follow in total. That is what makes an institution. That is what makes everybody that wants to go to the law school
that's somebody's
being
opinion.
scared. That's somebody's opinion. That will make him scared that I'm going to somewhere and I have to be serious with what I'm doing. But you see, when we operate a system and we now create a loophole that I cannot be punished for this, I cannot be punished because I'm influential, automatically it will not. You see, every of the things we do, our children are looking at us, and every one of us also, we are looking at our political leaders.
All right.
Because of the fact that if our political leaders are not doing what is right, automatically other citizens that are looking at them will also grow up not to do what is right.
All right. Yeah, sorry. Barrister, you wanted to say something?
Yes. It's just to buttress what you said. You know, you said institutions are made up of people. Institutions do not make up themselves. And it is very correct in the sense that the institution takes the shape of the person who is controlling, who is in charge, who has the power over that institution. And so if you have a corrupt individual heading that institution, of course, corruption will be the order of the day. But we still cannot overrule the importance of having institutions that work, in the sense that when eventually, and how are individuals, made? For instance, if an individual grows up in a good home, godly home, teach them morals, of course, when that kind of person is put in that institution, he exudes good values. He frowns at corruption and he upholds justice. But if peradventure something went wrong, he comes from a dysfunctional home. We heard recently, not too long, that some women go to the mountain to pray for their sons, that are doing cyber crime. If they come from that kind of home and, you feel entitled to amass the wealth that is meant for, the entire citizenry, there should still be an institution in place to call you to order. So if somehow we missed it at the family unit, then the institution should provide a system that corrects it and makes them know that, see, this cannot hold sway in this country. This is not the order of the day. We hear about what happens in China. There are some crimes that immediately you're caught, maybe with drugs or corruption, you're executed immediately. So they're trying to say that if you missed it in the house, you won't miss it here in the institution. So please, in as much as individuals have the responsibility to uphold the law, to have good morals, the institutions too have a lot to play. Thank you.
Okay, Comrade, I'd love to ask you, you made mention of certain things, and I'll pick them one after the other. Okay. You said most Nigerians are not educated. They're not aware of these laws, of these rights, per se. So if most Nigerians are not educated, and we say we are in the technology world, we're in the 21st century, what exactly are we doing now to help these Nigerians? How are we trying to educate these Nigerians? That's one question. Another question I have for you is, you talked about the system, that the process that brought these people into power is faulty. Okay, how are we going to work on this system when the rights of citizens to vote is being violated on a daily? Like we see during elections what happens, the things that transpire during elections. How do we plan to curb all these things? How do we plan to work on it to help the country, to help those we bring into power, to help so that the process can be transparent, and we'll be certain that those coming into power are actually aware of these fundamental rights? Because you said most of these leaders are not even aware. Now, aside that, also, you talked about the people, that we are the agents of change. We can be the ones to change it. How can we change these things when the system is not even allowing us to speak up? For every time citizens come out or go to the street to speak up, to make to have a peaceful protest against something they're not comfortable with, you either see them being abused, you either see them being tortured, being killed. Somehow Nigerians will feel like, oh, the country is, we feel like, okay, in quotes, is lost. Let me just relax, because going out there to always talk and speak up and do all these things, we're actually not getting what we want. So how do we work on all these things?
Let me start from this place. Between 1999 and now, we have been able to review the 1999 Constitution like 5 times. And there has never been a time that every of this review cut across the Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution. And when you look at the Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, it's talking about the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. And what are those policies all about? They are all about education to all, provision of housing to all, provision of a lot of things to the Nigerian people by the government. But they have not reviewed it because they never want it to be justiciable. When we are talking about justiciability, the simple interpretation is, when it is justiciable and the governor of my state cannot afford to give me education, I have all what it takes by law to take the governor to court that I need education and he must give me education by all means. They now make Chapter 2, they never make it justiciable. Since 1999 to date, while they have reviewed a lot of part of that constitution. Now, people are not educated because most of them does not have the financial ability and strength, economic ability to get this education we are talking about. The out-of-school children are there. Why are they out of school? A lot of people will argue that in the southwestern part of Nigeria, we are educated. That those we are seen to be out of school are those who are coming from, who are migrating from the north, from other places to the state. But the fact is that they are Nigerians and education has to be given to everybody across board. That is that. So when we are talking about education, that I'm talking about is that the government is failing. It has to be mandated. There was a professor who was analyzing. He said that my father did not want to send me to school, but on the policy of Obafemi Awolowo that on so date, every child must be in school. Any child that is not in school, his father is going to prison. Because of that policy alone, he said my father had to push me out and say, go, you must go. If I will come here now, and his police, they will come and pick me up. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that the chapter 2 of the Nigerian constitution has to be justiciable. It has to be reviewed so that it will be able to accommodate all Nigerians. Look, we cannot have a better election in as much as this chapter 2 is not justiciable. Why? You see, look, since 1999, I will talk about 1999 to date. I have never seen anything great that the government of Nigeria has done for me. Maybe social or whatever. I run my life myself. And that is the challenges that every Nigerians are passing through. The economic policies are not favorable. Industrialization is not coming up. And as a result of that, the economic life of the people are affected. And when the economic life of the people are affected, it becomes very, very difficult for them to take decisions on election day. I get it. So that is, we have talked about education, how to be given, and I've aligned it with the fact that the chapter 2 of the Nigerian constitution how to be made justiciable. If it is made justiciable, it will be easy for Nigerians to hold the government accountable on elections, to hold the government accountable on what is expected to be given to them as people.
Before I go to Barrister, let me ask you this. The CDHR, your work on these issues, let's narrow it down to Osun State. What do you think are the issues here when it comes to human rights violations?
You see,
in clear terms.
In clear terms. Part of the problem we are having now in Osun, under the leadership, because when we are talking about Osun, we're talking about Senator Ademola.
And I want us to speak to facts and figures.
No, yes, we'll point at that. Part of the problem we are having with the government of Osun, number one, is that administratively, they are
let's get it right.
Okay.
Against the issues against the governor or the government.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm coming.
Okay.
I will analyze it towards the government.
Okay.
Not the governor.
Yeah, because time is of essence.
Yes, of the government.
Okay.
The number one issue that is drawing a lot of things backward in Osun is because, number one, administratively. Let me cite an example. When you write a letter requesting for information via the Freedom of Information Act,
FOI
in Osun today, replies are not given to letters. So that itself, it's a breach to the fundamental principles of democracy that we are talking about. That is number one. Number two.
There is a caveat to that as well. It's not everything that FOI covers.
Okay.
Security.
The question we are demanding
does
not boil on security.
Okay. All right.
That's number one. Number two, there are some decisions that is being taken in Osun today that is against the fundamental growth of the public servant or of the civil servant in Osun.
Example.
The extension of service here of the Accountant General, the extension of service here of the head of service is inimical to the public service rule, and that in the Nigerian constitution, the governor does not have the prerogative power to extend the service here of a civil servant. And in Osun, for over 8-9 months, it has close to a year. No, it's up to a year now. Because I remember I wrote the first letter to the Osun State Government, to the Accountant General and the head of service, sometimes last year, December. And they are still on the extension of service here of the Accountant General.
Did they respond?
No, they did not respond. We had a press conference. We wrote series of letters to the governor telling them the implication that in the history of Osun State, there has never been a time that this has ever happened.
Is it because it has never happened or is against the law?
It is against the law. The governor, I said it. It is against the public service rule, the PSR rule 2011. And more also, it is against the Constitution of Nigeria does not give the governor the prerogative power.
And that's the exact thing the current leadership of the state is doing. That's what they are doing.
Yes. They have extended it Those who ought to have leave office remains in office. The accountant general ought to have retired. The head of service ought to have retired from service.
And they are still in service.
And they are still in service.
Because their service here was extended by the government.
Was extended.
And you are saying he doesn't have that power.
The government does not have the power
All
to
right.
do so.
We'll come back to that. Barrister.
Yes, please.
Now, one of the issues, again, we won't end this program without talking about issues against women. You know, rights of women being taken away, sometimes on the altar of marriage. I mean, altar of religion, rather. Traditional beliefs, and it can, you know, it's not just because of a region. There are practices that are from the, you know, respectfully speaking now, that are done in the eastern part of the country that you think is an infringement against the rights of women. In the north, in the southwest, are these things dying down? Are they dying down, or they are still rearing its ugly heads? And what are the issues against women, at least from the citizens' Gavel's end?
All right, thank you very much. That's a very valid question. This year alone, you know, we had so many deaths of women that were either used for rituals, or they were kidnapped, or they were killed eventually. Now, looking at the cultural aspect of it, you won't believe as at today in the northern part of Nigeria, child marriage is still happening, and it is backed up by both their laws and their cultures. So you have a girl as young as 14-year-old, she's getting married, and it's all over social media. We also have the issue of female genital mutilation, that is the circumcision of the girl child. It is still very rampant in the northern part of Nigeria. And because it is a cultural norm, normally this is 2024. If a law is repugnant to natural justice, good conscience, it's supposed to be abolished, but it's still taking place. And then we're talking about the eastern part of Nigeria, where women are made to shave their hair, you know, in things like that, because of the cultural norms of Nigeria, the fact that it's like a multicultural state. It seems like we really have no states. Like, you're trying to impose, you know, an imported law over a culture that has been passed down from generation to generation. And it goes as bad. I would like to share this very sad story with you. We received a complaint not too long ago in our organization. And of course, for privacy reasons, I can't say who. This woman married a man, and this man was sleeping with his teenage daughters. One was 16, one was 17. And we're trying to take it up. And then the next thing, she came around begging for cultural reasons that she's a Yoruba woman. She cannot tell her now. She can't tell on her husband. It's going to be embarrassing. She can't deal with the stigma. And we can't cry more than bereaved. So this is a glaring issue. Cultural beliefs, they are seriously opposing the law. And this further buttresses the point I raised earlier, that even if somehow, you know, a citizen missed it in their upbringing, they were exposed to wrong cultural values, there should be working institutions. There should be laws that blatantly say, look, regardless of your cultural affiliations, female genital mutilation is wrong.
Yes, Barrister. Because of time, I'll take this as a parting shot. The 2024 theme says, our rights, our future, right now. You know, so what should we start doing to have our right, our future? Right now is not to be postponed. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, says it's a global thing, global phenomenon. But let's talk about us here in Nigeria. And you mentioned something. How do you help a set of people who doesn't want to be helped because they don't believe they have that right? How do we encourage people to know that there is a right that they have under the law?
Simple. Our institutions must work.
So it's about the institution.
Yes. So if we missed it at the individual level, then we should have institutions that say this is the law. It's either you fit the law, it's either you adhere to the law, or you face the consequences of not adhering to the law.
To the law. All right. Comrade, let's take it home. Our rights, our future, happening now. You've talked about education. I understand that educated people are the only ones who can actually know that they have a right and they must fight for that right. Barrister Rita says something. How do you help a people that doesn't want to be helped. There are issues of women who are violated grossly, and because of the marriage, what will people say? Until they are dead, they will remain there. Nobody should speak up, or you will be a bad woman. And lawyers, people, CSOs, NGOs like yourself will say, let's help you. They will say, leave it. How do you help such a person?
The fact is that you cannot help such a person. I cannot cry than the bereaved. So if the bereaved say, please, I don't, leave me with my problem.
Because they don't know.
Look, a lot of people know. Some of them know. When they come, you see them, that you tell them, they now begin to gain their consciousness. When you tell them the first day, they will be eager that I will. But when they get home, the next morning when you meet again and say, how is everything, how are we moving? You see them saying, let us leave everything for God.
Because there is a system, a marital system, a community system,
and that is why,
who will tell them, nobody does this to their husband. Keep quiet.
And let me tell you, part of why they are saying they don't want to go ahead with this is because they look at the negative effect, they balance it. If I should say, I'm no longer interested, I want to break this family, I want to go my way, the woman now begins to look at, if I should go, who is going to feed me? Who is going to feed my children? Even if I want to work, how will I now get a job to do?
Economic power.
They now begin to look at it. They now look at it that it is better
to just stay
for me to live. And I discovered something about the anatomy of a woman. A woman can develop love for any man, even if the man is an imbecile. That's the way they are created. Now the question now is,
find love in strange places.
Yes,
that happens everywhere.
That's how it happens. So a woman will now begin to consider it, that instead of me to tell this man that beats me, that makes me a potty bag, no, he now begin to weigh it. He is paying the children's school fees. He is buying food at home. Let me be enduring the beating, so that at least one day my children will become successful.
Now let me
come over and take me
as your take home. If there is a woman who is being abused, or a man, because there are men that are abused as well.
Yes.
The only thing is the society frowns at it. How do I come now and say my wife is beating me? You see, you're already laughing as well. The same thing that happens. Uzoms is laughing. You are laughing. I'm not sure if Barista is not laughing at the other end. But it happens. She's giggling as well. You can see. But these things happen. We have women who slap their men, and who break bottles, who stabs them.
Yes.
And the moment the man comes out, people will say this is a weak man. So what should be done in that area? And I want to take it as a take home for people. Rights is what it is. It is right. Now, the moment you think your right is being violated, and all of these considerations are there, the church is saying, oh, hold on. The mosque is saying, have patience. Your father-in-law is saying, if I may say this in Yoruba, you live in your husband's house, whatever happens. And because of your children, just stay there, and somebody ends up dead. Can you look at somebody right straight in your camera and let them know that there is a right that you have to life?
You see, the fact is that
in a minute,
every Nigerian has a right, but it only depends on our ability to pursue it and to take our right from wherever it is hanging. So the fact is that whenever you see, to me,
can the society help?
No,
how can the society help?
The fact is that I see the Constitution of Nigeria. I see it more bigger than my Bible. Because I have got to understand that if I want to live in peace in Nigeria, I have to understand the law. If I want to go to paradise, I have to look at the Bible. So I want to achieve the two. So I look at the Bible to guide my moral life, while I look at the Constitution.
If you understand what I'm saying, we have less than 30 seconds. How can the society help in enforcing people's rights?
The only way,
instead of just narrowing them down to suffer whatever they are suffering.
The question is that our institutions have to work. For example, if somebody comes and tells me he has a problem, and the person is not even ready, if I should pick up a pen, for example, and write a letter to the Ministry of Justice, what I expect from the Ministry of Justice is to take the matter up immediately. So if the person is still saying, I don't even have money to pursue it, the Ministry of Justice has to intervene to ensure that the right of this person is not being infringed upon. Our institutions have to begin to work adequately. Our own role is to identify, to bring to the notice of the government, to the institution, the challenges that people are facing. It is now left in the hands of the institutions to come up and say, no, this is how it should be done, and to enforce it.
All right. I want to sincerely thank you. We've already said thank you to Barrister Rita, but I'm first to just ask something. 2 quick questions, yes or no. Does a police have the right to check my phone?
We have seen a lot.
No.
I want the barrister. Please hold on.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Does he have the right to check my phone?
No, he doesn't, except he has a warrant to check your phone. But out of the blue, he can't just approach you and check your phone. That's a breach of your privacy. So please politely insist that, sir, this doesn't fall within your jurisdiction. You have no right to check my phone.
In practical times, if that is happening at a place in the bush on the highway and he's insisting that he wants to check my phone and I've let him know you don't have the right to check my phone, what should I do to keep insisting?
Yes, if he's with a gun, I've
armed
been taught
person.
at home that don't ever argue with an armed man. So oblige him, let him check your phone. Then when the coast is clear, lay a formal complaint against that police officer. Thankfully, their name is always on their uniform. So you lay formal complaint.
Can a police
against...
check? Yeah, can a police search my house without warrant?
No, they can't search your house without warrant, even though that is mostly the order of the day. It is illegal for a policeman to make any search at all without a warrant.
All right. You know, many things to really talk about this morning, but I want to sincerely thank you. We want to sincerely thank you, Barrister Rita Odafe. Ofarn.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good to
Thank
have
you for having me.
Of course. And we're very sure we're going to have more on you on the program. You know, you have made your debut today. Thank you very much. And Comrade Olowu.
Thank you very much.
Emmanuel Olowu, thank you very much. Good to have you here.
It's a pleasure.
And, you know, we all have a right. And of course, let's add this. You have a right, you have obligation as well. In as much you are trying to defend your right or to activate your right, you have an obligation. Because that's the part that sometimes we don't add. You have a right, you have an obligation to your community and to your nation as well. So you have your right, Uzoms. You have your right to sign out now.
Yeah, we have a right to sign out now. And as we've all heard, it is of essence that we speak up, no matter what it is.
Right.
When you speak up, you're able to get help.
Yeah.
So to all our viewers out there, learn to speak up so that you can get help at necessary points in time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us. That's the last edition of this week's Morning Spring. I'm Uzoms, Okechukwu.
And of course, our right, our future is now. Enforce, activate, let the people, let the community help. There are people that are helpless. Let the people come together and help ourselves. That's why we can have a nation that we are all proud of. Femi Ojo is my name. Thank you for staying with us all week. We'll make a return next week. We can have a recap of this program on our YouTube channel at Western Spring TV. Stay alive. God bless Nigeria. Bye.